All right, so ditch your date. How many times can a dude cancel on your first date before you're like, it's not even a ditch or date situation. Like, you haven't even dated yet. Before
right?
It's just like ditch or don't ditch.
Yeah, date or no, I guess.
All right, so the email goes, normally I have very little tolerance for people that don't show me courtesy or respect. It is something that my mom taught me early on, which is a good thing. She said that I will get nowhere in life if I put other people's time, energy, or resources above my own.
Facts.
I agree with all of that. And I've always lived by that idea in my own professional life and when it comes to casual relationships or friendships. However, I can recognize that there is an exception to every rule. Sometimes being a decent person is realizing that and that some situations or circumstances are out of other people's control. I'm torn on how to feel about this situation that I'm currently in. 3 weeks ago, I met a guy on campus. Saw him quite a bit. And on this particular day, we struck up a conversation and exchanged info. He contacted me later that same day and asked me out for that upcoming weekend. Of course, I turned him down for that particular weekend because I didn't want to seem desperate or make myself available for a last-minute Saturday date. He asked me if I was available the following Thursday night. I told him that I was, and we agreed to go out that night. The morning of our scheduled date, I got a text and he asked if we could postpone our date because his mom had a family emergency. Had to go out of town and needed to go home that day and stay with his younger sister until his mom would be back on Sunday night. He was very apologetic. I told him I understood and told him to touch base with me when he was back at school. The following Tuesday, I got a text and he apologized and asked if I happened to be available that night. Since I really wanted to go out with him, I broke my own rule and agreed for that night. Later that afternoon, he said that with all the craziness of his family emergency, he totally blanked on a major assignment he had due the next day and apologized that he actually couldn't go out that night. Of course, I was annoyed, but at least I hadn't canceled or turned down any plans, and he had really only asked me a couple of hours earlier. We agreed to go out that Friday night. Thursday night, he texted me and asked if I minded if our first date was to a party his friends were planning. He said he would understand if I wasn't cool with that. And I was honest and told him that I'd prefer an actual first date before going to a party to meet all of his friends. I assumed his response would be no problem and we still go to dinner and he'd miss the party or at least the very beginning of the party. Instead, he said totally understand and he asked me if I could go out Saturday night instead. I told him no. So he said, how about Monday night? I told him I'd let him know. Here's the thing. He's canceled on me 3 times, but I also really like him. So is this red flag behavior or are my standards too high? Do I go out with him on Monday?
Okay, so I think it's pretty easy to say this is red flag behavior, right? And I wouldn't even argue against it if you felt that way because I think that's a fair conclusion. At the same time, I've been in this situation before where I really liked a woman and I wanted to start to date her. We met, we exchanged numbers, and just an unlucky string of events happened all 3 times to where something came up. It genuinely did. It was family stuff. It was a lot going on. And in my mind, I was like, I know she's going to see me as a flake now. There's literally nothing I can do. And that's exactly what happened. And I always wish she would have gave me another chance because I really wasn't a flake. It was just life.
Because these seem like legit excuses.
Right.
I mean, they were excuses nonetheless, but they still seem legit.
The only thing that would have rubbed me wrong if I was her, more so than him canceling the 3 times, is if you were going to a party already. Like if I'm in that situation, I would have just went on a date first. Right? Because then you have the option of now you can come with me to the party if you enjoyed the date, or you can go your separate ways and I can still make the party. But obviously you're available if you're going to a party. So he's not willing to really go the extra mile to make this date happen, and that would be the red flag for me.
Okay, but that's a mature man's thinking. She met him on campus, so we're talking about early 20s here.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yes, that would be a mature man's line of thinking, but when you're thinking about early 20s and you're in college and like, oh, it's a party, she'll want to go to a party, I don't feel like there is as much thought put into something like that.
That's fair. So in that case, I'd say give him one more shot.
One more shot.
Literally one more shot.
So she goes out with him on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I'm reading this, it doesn't I don't feel like he's trying to be sneaky.
I don't either.
I feel like there's just stuff but at some point it's like, okay, am I going to be a priority or am I not going to be a priority? I feel like I'm with you. Go out with him on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But if something comes up and he cancels again on Monday, I'd just be like, man, this is the 4th time we've tried to go out and it hasn't worked. I say we just cut our losses. And I just don't think it's meant to be.
I agree.
One of those things.
Yep.
I don't think you should take it, like if you agree to go out Monday and it happens again, don't take it personal. I wouldn't, say, I don't think lesser of yourself.
Yeah, no.
It's just put it out in the universe and see if it works.
That's the key, because they haven't gone on a date yet, so it's not personal, right? If we already went on one date and you start doing this, it feels a little more personal. In this case, it's not personal. I wouldn't take it personal. Give him one more shot.
All right, so Mo and I are behind it. Give this dude one more shot. Yes, red flag behavior, but we're saying go in anyway.
Yeah, it's tough out here today.
Our standards are so low.
The Bert Show.
Like what you just watched? Well, you can get way more of The Bert Show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.